Hello, and welcome to another wonderful episode submitted for your approval, the weekly card review show for Collective, the community-created card game, where you are the player and you make the cards. I am joined today by my faithful co-host, Grief.
Howdy, folks.
And my returned co-host, Empty Folder. That's your adjective this time.
Yeah, hello, everyone.
Yeah, because he's been gone for a bit. And we have a special guest star for you today. It is... Do the thing. Acoustic! Yay! Okay.
Wow.
So yeah, we got
By the way,
Acoustic
hashtag not sponsored.
admin for Gemmel. Okay. We're going to start with the accepted submissions. These are called accepted because they're in the collection, which means you can add them to your deck. Starting with Cinna the Crimson Tear is a 2-drop strength 1/3 vampire from Duskmere with life bond, and when you kill a unit, deal 1 damage to your opponent. I absolutely love this card. It serves as a great backup to like Beaconstein. Bacula in the chicken deck that I've been working on. But I mean, this also has plenty of uses. So it doesn't care about whose side the unit was on. It only cares about who killed it, which means that sacrifice works. If you can kill a bunch of units, this works. You want to run this off Affinity and a Grave Rave. This is just, that's probably a bomb. That's going to net you a lot of value. Grief, what do you think of this?
It's basically just one different-sided Bacula. There's nothing really much to say about it because, let's be honest, if you kill stuff regularly or if you're playing against a deck that kind of allows you to just nuke tokens 24/7, then you're sure this is extremely good. If your opponent doesn't, then okay, you have to basically rely on killing your own stuff. Because when you kill a unit, it doesn't marginalize the fact that you can also hit your own stuff.
Yeah.
It's just a cute little self-set card.
Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, it's a fine card. I mean, that deck really needs a card like this that's not so insanely fragile like Bacula is. So this will be a good card for it.
What the deck actually needs is stuff that it actually wants to sack.
Hey, I've been working on that, and nobody else has been working with me, so get to it. No. Acoustic.
Well, because you keep trying to reprint Chicken Tower.
But that's what the deck needs. Oh, Acoustic.
We don't need something on the level of Chicken Tower, but
anyways, Acoustic. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, okay.
That card's on the list.
Oh yeah, right. But anyways, as you guys had said, this is a very powerful self-attack tool. It's basically 3 extra copies of Count Bacula. But there's also another thing. Since this effect just procs whenever you kill a unit, you can also just kind of run this in control decks that run a lot of removal, whether it be like traditional action removal or like a lot of duelists, because I'll just let you kill a bunch of units, let you proc this effect a bunch and get a bunch of free life and burn. And I'm sort of worried that while this is a good self-sack tool, I'm worried if it might almost be kind of better in those kind of good stuffy control lists that are already trying to remove all of the units at the opponent plays, and then just getting extra burn on top of that on like a 1/3 life bond in an affinity that already has a lot of life bond. So yeah. I don't know.
Well, and that remains to be seen, but thankfully this card does have a lot of like knobs we can turn as far as updates go. So yeah. I'm confident that even if this sees an update, that this card will still be able to see use in the deck that
I don't think it's going to be too good. I'm just...
Yeah, and yeah, I understand that a lot of people were wary about this on the Discord, so...
Just not a huge fan, honestly.
Yeah. Anyways, the Slushy Scum is a 2-drop mine, 2/1 elemental ooze from Terrador with Summon and Entomb. Create a Frost. What is a Frost? It is a 1/1 elemental with when this leaves play, banish this, but it's in mind. So a continuance sort of the flames. We now have flames and frosts. Very, very cute little simple art from Spikebird. I absolutely love the art on this. And I think this is just an interesting sort of token fodder type thing. There's a lot of places this can already slot in, which is why I really, really like this, despite it's a good, clean, simple design. Grief, what do you think of this?
It's basically good, clean, simple, and kind of token support for mind, which is a little bit lacking. Concerning the fact, okay, it puts 2 bodies on the board when it enters, and if it dies, it actually leaves 1 behind. It's just solid. Trades well against removal, etc.
Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, this is a really good card for Elemental Laws. It's just insanely sticky, and it's nearly impossible for your opponent to stop you from getting like your turn 2 XP proc if you drop this after a 1-drop. It's very difficult to like clear out your board. And even when the new hero update comes, whenever that happens, this will still like synergize with it because it'll make a token when it dies, which can get you an extra XP. Yeah.
Acoustic, what do you think of this?
2 words: Dr. Vainmovsky. These are elementals. This gets you back the mana that you play it if Vainmovsky is on the board. So people are saying this is going to be really good for elementals. This is even better than I think some of us may realize it, because Vainmovsky is on the board. This is basically free. If it dies outside of combat, you're able to get a mana back to extend your plays. And even without Vainmovsky, as people said, it is just kind of a good card. It just kind of good stats for the cost. It gives you bodies for your Lazaro proc. Elementals already kind of want to have a bunch of elementals on the board. Now with Coalescer, Coalescer could be like its own breed of elementals, because you can just get like your Frost Court immediately with like no setup, and this makes it even easier to do that.
So yeah, good stuff.
Just very good for elementals.
Yeah. The Sunbright Crown is a 15 cost strength exclusive artifact with, for the rest of the game, you cannot die from having no HP while you control a unit. So for those of you who don't know, this is actually an iconic effect in Magic, and if I was doing better, I would have remembered the name. But there used to be a card that did this, an enchantment. Of course, this is unremovable, which kind of kicks it up a notch. This is meant to
basically
expend...
biorhythm.
What?
It's basically biorhythm.
Yeah, yeah. But this is meant to extend the cycle created by Starlight Pendant, and was originally planned out by Vyar long time ago. And this is the continuation, and it finally got in the game. So this is years in the making, folks. MT, what do you think of this?
It's like a very risky design, like turning all your units into pride for the rest of the game. Like that's a really strong effect. Of course, it's 15 mana, so you're going to be cheating this out. But like these are the type of the designs that really make me like think about deck building, where like it's strength exclusive. So maybe like you want to go for some sort of all dragon combo where you play this off like the free actions that you draw, and like putting a deck together that can actually do that reliably. Like it's just a very fun card to experiment and theory craft with.
Acoustic, what do you think of it?
I was not thinking about all dragon actually, but yeah, since it's a strength exclusive card, you are basically forced to play this in Perlma, and basically the objective is to find some way to play this 15-mana card, whether it be like stacking a bunch of doubloons and combine with ramp, or cheating out with all dragon, or cheating out with some other card that I don't remember in strength. I don't think strength has too much of that kind of stuff, to my knowledge. But of course, your payoff is you got this really strong, this really powerful effect, giving you nigh immortality, as long as you are able to keep playing units. I'm not sure if the card itself is going to initially be very good, but this is definitely one of those cards that that gets like exponentially stronger the larger the card pool is, and you find more ways to like break it.
Yeah. Grief, what do you think of this?
Maybe this helps us with the second coming of What Tribal, because What Matters was a very unique little mid-range control deck in the past. And putting basically warded untargetable units under this kind of effect would be very cool to see in a perma control deck, but we're probably very far off of that. Besides maybe some clunky old dragon cheese, that's basically it. Overall, very slick design. I love that we have this kind of effect again. I'm personally a very huge fan of Pride in general and effects similar to it. Problem was more that Pride's design kind of lent itself to be either full into this with the untargetable Pride on top of it, or if you ever wanted to nerf that kind of design, you killed the card entirely.
Yeah.
So this is probably a little bit more balanced.
Yeah.
Definitely, I definitely prefer it over Pride.
Okay. The Corrupted Oracle is a 3-drop neutral 1/5 human from Ulcer Krona. With end of turn, give 5 random cards to the opponent's deck Jinx. Jinx, to remind you, is when the card with Jinx is drawn, its owner takes 1 damage from the opponent and the ability Jinx is removed. Which that is due for a wording update. I think Zinker already has one on the thing. First of all, I'm looking closer at the art, and man, that art's creepy. But interesting stuff. I think we did talk about this a little bit, or at least on the Jinx mechanic last time. I think we were talking on a different card. Of course, this one is people slowly going insane. Lots of stacking Jinxes. This is going to be pretty neat. Acoustic, what do you think of this?
I think this is a very interesting card. If any of you have played Legends of Runeterra, there's a mechanic similar to this in the form of puff caps. So basically, they go into the opponent's deck, and when they draw them, they take damage. For pretty much is as simple as that. This is a unit. It has a very good body. It is very sturdy and hard to kill. We'll probably see some. Could probably see some play in some dot lists, at least until the heroics happen, and this kind of thing is less incentivized in dot. But it also effectively just gets you free burns. But while it isn't consistent, since it goes throughout the entire deck in comparison to like Chars or something, this has the potential to stack up a lot of damage very quickly if it was not removed, and with how bulky the body itself is, it is very hard to kill outside of like some harder removal. Like duelists can't do much against this, and this is also just a very good blocker. I like the direction that Doggo has been going with these more recent Ultra Chrono cards. I think Jinx is a neat mechanic to introduce into the game, and I am looking forward to see how else this mechanic can be expanded upon in and outside of the realm.
Yeah,
I want to see what other people do with this.
Grief, what do you think of this?
So the card basically allows us to have this kind of pseudo trap burn card effect on a very sticky body technically. Since it's neutral, there's probably a lot of ways you can implement this in already pre-established decks that could just allow you to get just extra reach. This is funny enough also a Doomwalker support because it's a 1 attack matters unit.
You're right.
So you could, depending on how it stacks, could actually set them up with an ANSI saying, okay, making copies of this card because it's a 1 attack matters unit, putting the attacking units into play, okay, end of turn, seeing what triggers first, you could actually get the tokens to put more Jinx stacks on cards in your opponent's deck.
That is cool.
As far as I know, they would both trigger at the same time because I think all end of turns technically happen at the same time. Because
so even if the units are gone, they should that effect should still be on the stack. Empty,
which would be very funny.
Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I think like if you're going to do a trap archetype, this is definitely the way to go about it. Like each jinx only does like 1 damage, so you're making the mechanic as consistent as you possibly can for something that's draw based. And honestly, like a mechanic like this is really needed in standard right now. There's so much draw going on. Having something that like actively punishes your opponent for going through your deck and making them consider like each card draw that they play is just it's gonna find a home immediately, I think.
Good stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of things that this can really shut down. Good hate bear type effect. So these cards are active, so you cannot add them into your deck just yet. But what you can do is you can upvote them, and then maybe they'll get in the game, and we'll see. Starting off with the Shattered Glasses is a 2-drop neutral curio equipment from Coercion, with giving you an active, draw one of the top 2 cards of your deck and mill the other. So I was just there on the card lab and I saw Soy was posting this, and I was like, oh, I know exactly what to do with the flavor. And people
by the way, this could have also fitted into Walnut.
This could have been in Walnut, yeah. But you didn't talk to Soy first. No. I just had a really good idea for a story. Coercion is about stories. Coercion is for lovers. Grief, what do you think of this?
It's okay. It's not really good. It's not really a good card. It's very slow.
It's
at least a utility equipment, which we are basically asking for years, and should probably cost 1 mana, because at 2 this is very useless.
I do agree this is slow. One thing I do like about this is it has a lot of knobs to turn if we decide we do want to like resub or update depending. The active can just be an end of turn, probably, maybe. And of course the mana cost is something we can turn. I thought this was about right as is, so I didn't really comment on it. I was helping lab it, but of course I'm used to playing this super slow format that is single player. So, Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, it's very weak, but I mean, I don't know. It's not really a standard relevant card. I think it's fine if it's a bit overpowered. Or not overpowered, underpowered. I like the design, but like you're putting yourself in a like really risky position by playing this, since you just get 2 for 1. And especially like when you're playing this, you're doing it to get value. And having it so easy to have that value just yanked away, it feels pretty bad.
Well, guys, it's sitting at 10. It might get into the collection. Please don't talk this thing off the cliff.
No, I think it's fine. I'd love to have this in the collection.
I would too. I really think even as is, this would be really good. And this can maybe stand if we have like just a spare like update slot one. We can either lower the cost or change the active to end of turn. Or get more active support. We could build out active support, folks.
Vigilant.
Yeah, or well, no, but I mean like something that cares about active.
The thing is, active support always just turns into duelist support instead.
Exactly.
That's the problem, yeah. Acoustic, what do you think of this?
I actually like this design quite a lot. I like the filter draw aspect. I don't think it's something that we don't have a lot of in the game for the most part, and being able to rig both your hand and your graveyard since it mills in comparison to something like Burst of Inspiration, which banishes. This can see play in some graveyard oriented decks. I definitely understand that this could probably cost 1, but at the same, like if I'm thinking about this, to make this on curve, you need to hit the active twice, which is going to be over the span of 2 turns, because you've hit a ready to unit. Most likely with this, so something that you don't want to see combat that turn. You can use the active and use the active again, put it on a value engine or something that doesn't already have an active of some kind, or something with, or of course something with vigilant, which would be well,
I think the play on this
I guess
is
most of the
summoner.
vigilants are like higher costed. So I can definitely see how this could use some buffs, but I think the core idea is incredibly solid. And I think can open some interesting gameplay and deck building opportunities.
Yeah.
Also, the flavor is nice, and the art is really good. I think Soy did a very good job on it.
Yeah, well, yeah, the flavor just came from like seeing Soy's art and being like, this I can tell a story with, you know, add some stuff here and there, spruce it up a little bit. But Soy really just knocked it home with the art. I love it. Oop. Okay, folks, we're gonna have to go try something. I don't know what's going on. Okay, there we go. Motes of Mischief is a 1-drop spirit 1/1 specter from Walnox with flying and entrance, draw a card, then discard a card. So from what I understand, this is basically just sort of an alternative version of the Rummaging Sparrow, which people have been talking about. We're just talking about on the updates, like right before I got on. The art is absolutely 100% fantastic and is one of my favorite Spikebird pieces of all time. So I really need this card to get in just because it's beautiful. But also it provides just a really, really solid 1-drop. You get a little 1/1 flyer and then you get a single rummage. Potentially if you could synergize this with something that is flickering, then you can maybe get some more rummages out of it. But whereas Sparrow is supposed to be consistent value, this is just getting you your opening turn discards. You could flicker, do your Phantom of the Opera song and dance number. In Legacy, this can net you some card draw and do some other really cool things with like the Lost Spectre or the Undead Courier or the Spectral Courier. So lots of cool options with this. Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, it's another card that's like trying to replace Lost Lurker for the Spectre deck. The deck like really needs something like this right now, so I'm hoping it gets in for its sake. It is very fragile. A lot of like obviously most likely Hawkins is going to be the Spectre deck, although you could see Marie potentially after the rework. And having this be so fragile is a pretty big downside. But like the deck needs a 1-drop, so I'm hoping this gets it.
Acoustic, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I don't think this is so much meant to be a retrain of Lost Lurker, but maybe more so a retrain of Altered Memory, which is something that ever since the Spectre deck lost has been sorely needing. And just having a card that just lets you draw a card and then chuck something, but that could be like a Gadriel or something, and you just flip him, and there you go. You have your Gadriel, and you just have like a 1/1 flyer that just drew that just drew you a card. If you have Branch on the board, you can discard a thing and hit their face. You can. Like one of the big things that Spectres have been suffering from as of late is there haven't been a lot of just good cards that just let you chuck cards out of your hand, and this lets you do that. And it's also a 1/1 flyer, so it has evasion. It can maybe block a Cassiel or something, or if they have no flyers, you can swing for some chip damage. The effect is an entrance, so you could perhaps splash in like Haunted Yarn or something, or other cheap reanimator effects and get the effect again. So I think there's a lot that you can do with this card, especially in Spectres and maybe even outside of Spectres. The effect is just good. Altered Memory saw play in a bunch of decks while it was in Standard. So who knows? I definitely like this one.
Grief, what do you think of this?
I want Spectres to be good.
I have to agree, this is a versatile 1-drop that will probably see play in more than just Spirit, considering the fact that, okay, for 2 mana you get a 1/1 flyer that loots you, sets up the graveyard, draws you a card, whatever you want to do with it or wherever it fits, and the fact that it's an entrance, you can actually shift into it or utilize it via spawning random 1-cost units. So its versatility is basically stable on it. So turn 1 having an opening play with this is just a given. this will probably go moving forward. One of the main staples of most spirit decks that can actually run this kind of quote unquote consistency tool.
Yeah, and it's sitting at 7, so it's doing pretty good. Okay, the red Way Golem is a 2-drop strength 2/2 wax golem from Lux, with when you play a card that targets this, draw a strength action. So I thought it was interesting because it seems like this has been just an indicator. I mean, you got to follow 2 of the most prolific and successful designers in the game, right? You got your Cornmeal and your Spike. This is a card that was arted up by Cornmeal and designed by Spike. I think it's because Lux was doing a lot of when you play a card that targets this, and then I'm starting to see this move from Spike on Lux to the whole caring about strength specifically as an infinity, and then doing the strength action thing. And so it does, I really, really do like this. It seems like this could be a good like chain build for like a strength equipment type thing. But I just really kind of wanted to like discuss the move because I thought, or the additional stuff he's adding on. I don't really like cards that care about affinities in particular, but I thought this was sort of an interesting way to do it. It's just a personal preference. Acoustic, what do you think of this?
This is definitely an interesting one. In contrast to the other cards that want you to play cards on them, this actually acts as a play extender because you could play this guy, you could play a card that targets it, and then you draw another action. That's probably also some kind of targeting thing. And you can target it again to draw another card, or target something else and get the other effect. It because like at the moment, in terms of targeting payoffs, you have Red Way Guard, which is not great, and Heretic, which is where it has a really good effect, but like it feels like most of the strength from that card is like the action that it creates on death. So just have a card like this that lets you keep getting more actions to play to proc your to proc your other cards, or maybe to play this in like a more good stuffy build where you have a couple of cards that at target, and when you have them, you can play it on this, and then you can draw another card, or if you play like a Palm of Flames on this, and you have some stuff in your graveyard, you can play it on this. You draw a card, you're like playing a card from a Palm of Flames, and you can like get a bunch of, and you can like cheat like a bunch of value potentially. And on a 2-mana 2/2, that's pretty good.
Grief, what do you think of this?
In the context of the target deck, which I don't know how much that's worth.
Well, okay. So one of the first thoughts is, if we look at this card, it cares about any card targeting it. So units also work. Therefore, you don't really need to run an equipment target deck, because funny enough, Red Way Golem isn't really that kind of target. It functions with self-sec as a good target to as an extender for finding more self-sec or a pain or whatever cards that trigger these kinds of effects, which this is a good consistency tool for. We very much need more cards that care about affinity in that regard for filtering, especially those tools that you need in these cases.
Yeah.
If this would just randomly draw any kind of action, then this kind of effect would be probably much wasted on this card.
Well, I mean, he's extending it as a sub theme, which I thought was the interesting thing. But see, I'm personally of the bent that I would prefer less affinity references and more hard tutors. Like, maybe not on this card, but like I wish we could just have hard tutors in this game, but that's not what the community really wants. So I'm thinking about posting an update. You know what really needs an update? Purlock. Purlock really needs an update to work the way Purlock used to, because does anybody care at this point? Please tell me nobody's still around carrying out
Purlock can burn in hell for all I care.
Purlock is still a useful unit. It's solid, but
yeah,
there are better options.
Yeah. Anyways, MT, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I'm not so sure about like the viability of this card. The targeting deck never really has recovered from losing Ruffling. The deck it's like very Heldem centric just because buffing, like mega buffing one unit very naturally falls into Heldem's game plan. And having like a 1-cost card to like start off your like chain buffing is just very like the difference between 1 and 2 mana is huge for that. As for like self sack, I could maybe see that happening. You do have like a lot of good options for like 2 mana draw a card. Although like I guess if you need specifically strength actions, this could be a good way to tutor it versus like getting a neutral action maybe off Void Wisp or something.
Yeah. So anyways, those were my thoughts on that. Overall, it's an interesting card. I'll be interested to see where that direction goes. The Evo Villainous is a 4-drop spirit 3/3 human scientist from nowhere in particular with deadly and entrance, or when this leaves play, create an Evo cask. The Evo cask is a 0/1 with can attack, and at the end of the turn, your leftmost unit shifts +1. I really, really love this card for a number of reasons. First of all, I really like the piece that Imsa Corella did for Carthian with their crash landing. I'm tempted to call this the best Imsa Corella piece, though. I just really, really like the art on it, and I really, really like that Imsa Corella is challenging themselves and doing humanoid figures and stuff like that, or human figures. The Evo cask idea, at first I was a little mad about it because of like referencing direction, but at the same time, like I saw the potential of this with just providing an instant engine to something like a Portal Way hype, or finding a way to, or just using this to get a lot of like non-native units on the board. Or I think there's other things that care about like shift or banish. Obviously, you could do your like security guard type stuff. There's a lot of cool tricks you could pull off with this, and so I just really, really like this idea. Grief, what do you think of this?
Cute.
This was your pick.
Yeah, the thing is like it's kind of a cute card. The thing, okay, it's a solid unit. If you drop it, it gets cask down, and it kind of is a self-contained engine. Sure, okay, end of turn. If it's the only unit that you have on the board, you get a second cask, which turns both of your Evo casts basically into other units. So you will get kind of immediate impact for this.
Okay, we're gonna let Empty talk for a bit.
All right. Yeah, I really like this card. This is a very clever design with how the casts work, so that it's like automatically shifting your board forward until eventually the casts sort of evolve themselves. It does mean that this card sort of has like a capped value, as once it goes through whatever your board is, the casks will transform themselves and you won't be able to use them anymore. But like the Portal Way hype deck really needs something other than just trying to cheese early with security guards, and having like a value engine like this is, I think, will be pretty important for the deck.
Yeah, so what you do is you run this in a single player setting with like Underlabs Enigma, and you just make like little copies of the Evo casks, and you just keep the party going forever.
Yeah,
or you just flicker.
That's a single player. That's probably the keyword.
If only there were flicker tools and other affinities, because like flickering
like,
the Evo cast back to the end of the line would be really fun too.
The thing is, like, this card probably shines in single player where you can dirtle around a bit to get the most out of this effect. Because sure, it plays new cards at the end of the board, but overall the only real use for this card is actually its deadly body, and that's it.
Acoustic, what do you think of this?
I don't have too much experience with the shift deck. This is pretty good by itself because it is effectively if your opponent has already done their thing, you can basically get it and you have nothing on your board. You can get a 5-drop for 4 mana, and that's not bad. The deadly is kind of weird on it. I'm not sure. I think you could cut on the deadly and maybe just give it a better stat line or something. I don't know. The deadly seems weird on this. Of course, it has synergy with itself and our shift cards. It makes more or casks, as people have already said, as more stuff get shifted, the casks will eventually shift themselves into 2-drops, and 2-drops kind of vary wildly. Like there's some there's a lot of 2-mana 1/3 life bonders, so getting a 2-mana 1/3 life bonder with some sort of tertiary effect off your casks is like not bad. How many is it for 4-way hype? 6?
Yeah.
So this is going to probably give you like 2 to 3 procs roughly by itself. So it is good at accelerating the quest. If a bit slow for that, but
Yeah.
it's cute.
The Rose Core Knight is a 5-drop strength 3/5 vampire knight from Mortstall, Realm of the Dead Things, with life bond, agile, and a tomb. Draw a card with Rose in the name, Frenzy 2. So I've already explained my silliness to people. I don't like cards that reference other cards by name. And this is no exception. I mean, it's just a personal preference. And it's mostly just kind of what it does with the actual dynamics of other players creating cards for other realms and that sort of thing. But what it does do, it's a 5-drop 3/5 life on agile frenzy, chance to net you a lot of life, and that's really, really cool. And if you're running the deck that's designed to synergize with this, and you can get a one of your tools, so that's really neat, or another Rose Court Knight. Empty, what do you think of this?
I think it's a bit awkward to play. A lot of times, like, if you're going against aggro turn 5, like, you want to be gaining a lot of life. If you swing with this and they chump block, you're only going to get 2. The other thing is for the tutor, like, that could potentially be a very strong effect, but having it as an entomb on a 5-drop makes it very difficult to actually utilize as a tutor, since like self-sacking this is kind of out of the picture at 5. It's sort of just something that will happen incidentally. I guess if you run 3 copies of this, it cycles into itself, which is kind of nice. But other than that, not sure.
Acoustic, what do you think of this?
Kind of mostly what Empty said. I was actually I was in the process of helping out Corn when he was designing this card, and it went through a lot of iterations. It used to have like entrance, which is some variation of dealing damage to both players, and I was like, because like, oh, if it deals 2 damage multiple times, then it used to have like essentially multiple like pings and stuff, and that kind of what wasn't too great. So me, Wujek, a couple of people in the DC were basically talking with him on a balance the card, and it came into this. Looking at it now, maybe it maybe could use a small buff or a slight tweak or something. I don't know. It is definitely kind of a weird design. Of course, it's meant to have synergy with Rose Immortal, with the Immortal AI card, the 6-drop. That's why it has the frenzy 2 most likely, is so you deal the frenzy and it just immediately procs the effect. The entomb is kind of weird. Maybe that could be a summon or an entrance or something.
Grief, what do you think?
Well, basically this card synergizes with the New Baldwin and the Rose card, because New Baldwin would actually sack this off promo into potentially your Rose, also drawing then a Rose card, and which is the funniest thing is, unlike other name-based decks or ideas, this is generic Rose. So every time a new card with Rose comes in, you can potentially tutor this.
Yeah, isn't
And
there
that's
like a Taliran golem that incidentally has
Rose
in its
Guard,
name?
Guard, yeah.
Exactly, and
there's
that's
actually a lot
why
of weird synergy. Because this is 5 HP, which can proc the guard.
Yeah.
which reminds me of my
and
most
it also
favorite.
gains you life, which procs Rose, and like it's kind of weird. Like if Rose Garden's guard was like neutral or chroma strength, that would actually be like really good. Funnily enough.
Which reminds me of my most favorite card in Force of Will. It's utter shit, but the best thing about it is because it is flavored to be a hint or a reference to Red Riding Hood's basket and the apples in it. It searches cards with a name with apple in its name. Funny enough, working in English, there are cards that have apple. Have the Apple name in English, but not technically in German or other languages. So it can actually search its cards out with Apple in the English translation. And I love these kinds of name-based cards even more than just archetypal names, because they're so open and give you so many cute little options that weren't really intended.
Okay. Any other thoughts on the card, or moving on?
Could need a buff.
It gains you a lot of life. That's what it does.
I could need a buff.
Okay, and now let's talk about the Spiffy Squid. Is a 1-drop mine 1/2 fish from nowhere in particular. With when you draw this, you may pay 1 mana to draw a non-Spiffy Squid fish. So I think that's a cute little interesting. You basically just it's a fish who draws you fish. So it's a reference to like the old ways back in the long ago, back when fish was like a thing that people were trying to build, and to some degree of success. And I don't really know how well that worked out. Acoustic, what do you think of this card?
It is a cute tool for fish. You do have the 1-drop. You do have the Dragon Wealth of Tides. So, which is like this, which is this insane card, and this card lets you do stuff with Dragon Wealth. Because if Dragon Wealth's on the board, next turn you draw this. You could just draw another fish, and that's like two 2/1/1s or other fish cards. So I suppose this could also be used to tutor out big fish, because if this is one of the 2 fish in your deck, when you draw this, you could pay 1 mana and you tutor like your Utralodon or your Spawnophornaeus or your, I don't know, Devouring Leviathan or something. You can also use it for that. You can use it to tutor the big fish, or you can just, of course, run it in like a fish deck, or maybe in like an aggro list. You can run this. You can run Siren Singer, which is insane. Like aggro card, you can draw this. It draws your Siren Singer, and there you go. The Siren Singer is in your hand. Like there are a lot of good cards that are incidentally fish, and you can run this along with them as a sort of hard tutor for them, because it does not draw itself.
Yeah. You can also do, if you're looking specifically for the fish build, we have Dragon Whelp of Tides. We have this. We have like Door to a Familiar Place. So if you have a couple of these just sitting around in your hand, or if you accidentally mulliganed into them or whatever, you can just throw this down as a way to trigger that effect. I mean, it's a little bit of a mana sink, but sometimes that's what you need. Maybe with this, I mean, it's sitting at 4, so it's not going to get in. We're not going to get up against like 9s and 5s and 7s. So I don't think it'll fare that well, but maybe.
I mean, in-game votes.
Well, yeah,
like stuff at 0 gets in all the time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But maybe with a tool or two that kind of props this up, we could actually have a fish shell. Grief, what do you think of this?
I mean, technically you have a fish shell. The problem is more or less that the tax of 1 mana is a little much. If this would say, okay, shuffle a card from your hand back into your deck, or discard a card and then draw a
Oh
non-spiffy
yeah,
fish,
that could really work.
this would be better, because what's awkward with these kinds of effects is it's cool on the draw, but if you already have a plan of how to sequence your turn, do you really want to pay that 1 mana? If you can guarantee that you can use that card, then sure, but whatever. If you draw into it via other effects, then you can basically sit there, oh shit, would I have known that before, I would have sequenced my turn a little bit different. Now I don't have the mana to pay it, or I would have the mana to pay it, but I need it for something else, and so on and so forth. Paying
Yeah, the
1
real
mana
feels
on
bad
draw.
moment with this is like you draw it on a late on like a turn 3, and then you pay the 1 mana, and then you draw a 3-cost fish, right? And now you can't actually play the thing you just drew.
And that's why I use it to hard tutor top ends.
But yeah, the thing is, like, I like this kind of card, and fish would probably benefit tremendously from it. But any other thing than a mana cost would be probably better. Like, basically, as I said, shuffle card back into your deck, then you could potentially draw them back. If it's a fish, you can potentially draw that again. Maybe trigger its on-draw effect, or trigger the on-draw effects of your fish cards on the board, etc. If it's a discard effect that has other synergies with cards that want to be binned or have triggers off of being discarded or leaving hand, so
Yeah.
that would open up more options than just, yeah, pay 1 mana and potentially ruin your sequencing in that specific turn.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if it tucked in and shuffled, or even if you wanted to, as a balance consideration, just bump the cost of the fish drawn by 1. That way you're still paying the mana, but you're not screwing up your turn sequencing or not able to play a card because you weren't accounting for that. Not the best idea, but it's something. Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I think this is a completely fine card. I don't have any problems with it. Like, it's a decent card for the fish deck. The only thing is, like, we have 1 mana Dragon Whelp of Tides in standard, and we can't nerf it. Which makes me really hesitant to vote on anything that puts a fish deck into standard, because that is going to be horrible to play against when that happens.
Nah, actually not. Considering how Legacy Fish looks like, it's a very interactive deck, actually. It can
Standard's not Legacy. I don't think you compare the two.
No. Legacy Fish has way more bonkers tools. And it's still middling.
Okay, next card up is the Aerial Aspirant. It was a 0-drop 0/1 chicken from nowhere in particular with can't attack and entomb, create a Skybound Soul. Skybound Soul is the 0-drop 0/1 chicken specter with flying and can't attack. So for those of you who don't know, the story behind this is I was tired of begging for art. And so I recently went out, bought $100 in supplies, and I'm drawing cartoons with fancy supplies and trying to get them into the game. Mostly for the chicken deck, because that's what I've been working on. The joke here, for those of you who don't know, is I was looking through some Aristocrats tools from MTG, and I saw Doom Traveler, which is it's a traveler who's fleeing from the werewolves or whatever, and he dies and he turns into a ghost. And I'm like, that is a chicken, as a funny joke. And then I thought, and then the thing became, oh, it's a chicken who wants to fly. And then that's where this whole thing came from, because our chickens can't fly. And it would be funny if you finally got the chance to fly. So it's a reference to Doom Traveler. Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, so I mostly picked this card because I want to know what your ideas are for the new chicken archetype and what your design direction for it is. I think the problem with old chickens is that they didn't really serve to be a deck unto themselves. They basically just made it so mid-range couldn't really play the game, and then served to bolster combo and control decks off things like Bloodletter and Self-Stack. So I want to see what's your goal with these chicken designs?
What I want, based on what I've been playing around with Doom Chicken Incorporated, is to get 3 or 4 incredibly cheap bodies off the ground, batch sacrifice them for a big effect. So it's basically just like a quick, like, get a couple things on, burst, sack them all, do something really cool with it. Which relies on them being very low to the ground, very, very cheap, right? Or or having them like leave an extra body behind or something like that. But I have some other things in mind for that, but right now, most of the things I wanted to do was just give them more tools for bodies for like the incremental value-based self-sack stuff that already exists. Acoustic, what do you think of this?
I don't know, man. I'm not a fan of the chicken tower type designs. I was around when chicken tower was in standard, and it was just kind of like, oh, I played chicken tower, I bloodletter, I draw chicken tower, I played chicken tower, I bloodletter, I draw chicken tower, I played chicken tower, I play some big thing on like turn 1 or 2, and it's like,
well, we
sure,
don't. So the other thing
it's
is,
like, sure, we don't have bloodletter, but we have other stuff that works similar to that. Like you use vaults for a bunch of extra damage. You can use Ragias for a bunch of card draw. You can get more face damage with stuff like Bocula. You get a bunch of cards, healing, Herald with
Gathering tree.
You have tenders on the board and it makes a bunch of counters, and it's like triggering all of your self-sack effects for free is like kind of bonkers.
Yeah. So, well, people have been saying perhaps, I mean, this weirder one, if you compare it to like Firefly, I might resub it at a bump to 1. Someone had this fun way to kind of add to the joke, although it takes away from the original thing, where it could cost a little bit more and then on Entomb create a hearty breakfast, which I thought was funny. And then create the Skybound Soul in hand. Grief, what do you think of this?
Man, 0-cost units that are meant to be sacked and can block that leave a body behind are kind of awkward, mate. Very damn awkward. So you're playing aggro. Okay. Here's my aspirant.
It also has the gathering tree problem where it just makes a bunch of blockers for cheap and aggro cries. It also is flying, so Cassiel suffers.
Maybe make the Skybound Soul can't block.
Yeah, that was something someone had said, and I might do that if I try a resub because it's sitting at 0.
Like, cool idea, but yeah, like this is kind of overtuned. I like my strong cards, but this is kind of overtuned.
Okay.
Coming from a dude that designed Glowstone Mine.
I might, well, given how it's sitting and what you guys have said about it, there might be a different version up by the time you guys are watching the podcast, so we'll see. I really do like the work I put into the flavor, though. Like, it's just flavorfully, this is super cute. Elem the Philanthropist is a 4-drop spirit 3/4 Spectre Arcanist from Wall Knocked. With once per turn, when you discard a card, create a coin. Active, discard a card. If you do, return a Spectre, Nightmare, Dream, or Horror in your graveyard to your hand. So flavorfully, I really, really like this idea. And the Elem Halem, the other two, Cough Hands and the other one, really, really interests me in sort of just how he's built these characters in this little thing that's just taking space in Wall Knocked and doing their own cool little thing. But like at the moment, I think it's sitting at 0. People are scared of this card, and of course, because this is what we do here on the show, I want to talk about why, starting with Acoustic.
I don't get why people are scared of this.
I mean, do you think it's way underpowered?
No. It's it's fine. I mean, I might be a bit biased. It's like Elem is back, but I mean, yeah, you discard cards, you create coins, you discard cards, you put cards back. into your hand. It has a wide variety of stuff that I can bring back, which at the moment may not seem too relevant, but again, as the card pool expands, there are probably some more weird or wacky stuff that you can do with it. You can run it in like a KM build, maybe if Zooreal gets off the ground, you can do like Spectre Zooreal KM or some nonsense where like instead of banishing the figments from your hand, you're like discarding them. You're getting coins and you put them back into your hand. Wait, I think whatever. That's
Yeah.
point. But there's other stuff you can do with this. You can. I think just the wide variety of tries of this. There's potentially a lot of stuff that you can do with that. People may be scared of that kind of stuff, like maybe some unintended direction. I think it's really fun, and also specters are bad.
Grief, what do you think of this?
So I don't care.
Very cool card. Something that mid-range, something that's very useful for mid-range specters, and it's basically on point. Like this can carry this could carry the archetype, but we basically said that same thing about the other specter card that people were so scared about, that puts buddies on the board. Same realm, same cost range. Strong
MT,
effect.
what do you think of this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great card for specters. I think it's not quite as compelling as the original Elem. The original Elem had a lot of like wacky synergies that you could do with it, and this is a bit more one note. It does have like the multi-tribe on the active, but honestly, like there's so many tribes there. At some point, I think you could just say return any unit to your hand, and then it wouldn't be a big difference.
Wait, one more thing. Is like one thing I can definitely see is maybe this could go into a different mana slot, because specters already have multiple good 4-drops. They already have Anahem and they already have Gadriel. So I'm not sure if the deck needs 3 4s.
Yeah. Okay.
Like maybe like a 3-drop or a 5-drop even. I don't think they have a lot of
Okay.
those.
We've been running kind of long, so I'm just going to ask that we kind of move fast on these last couple ones.
We've been basically for a little bit less than 60 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah, we're not.
Oh, I'm
We're not
sorry, I
over
misread
time.
the time. Okay, we're doing good. Malicious Air is a 4-drop spirit action from Hallucinogenica. With once a turn, you gain once a turn when an ally unit enters play. Banish a random card from the enemy hand until end of turn. So Zinker was making the big push toward changing the way the formatting on this worked. There was originally the issue with this in Sunbright Crown, where Zinker wanted to push toward having you gain as a thing, which I think might be a nice distinct way to handle text crunch with our permanent effects. So what this does is, if you are willing to burn 4 mana, you get once per turn, play a unit, and your opponent gets cards that disappear for a turn. So this is sort of a chaotic kind of disruption type thing, with really, really interesting sort of abstract art. And so I really, really like that. Is this any good? I don't really know, but I do think it's an interesting design direction in talking about how we're going to handling adding effects to the player and letting the player have these like emblem style things attached to them. So Grief, what do you think of this?
Very cool design. Feels a little slow. What do I mean by that? Okay, it's only for the first card in the turn, for the first ally in the turn that enters play for you. You can basically say, okay, this is a pseudo hand disruption effect, which is cool. At 4 mana, you're skipping a turn for that. Then, okay, cool. If you really want to benefit from that, you either need a 0 mana or 1 mana unit, meaning the earliest thing where you can play this card is turn 5. Then, taking into account how much card advantage we have in other decks, what cards can tutor multiple times, what leaves and buddies on board, etc. Basically saying that, okay, cool. All my units have, okay, once per turn, I'll just banish a random card in your hand. It's cute and all. But if I cannot actually counteract your game plan or fight against your card advantage, this kind of effect is a little useless. To double down on this, all my cards or units already need hand disruption effects on top of it to really hammer home the point, considering that my opponent gets their card back at the end of the turn.
Mm-hmm. MT, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I think this is, I agree with Grief. This is a very, very slow effect. And I think not very good because of that. It's kind of going into like untread territory here, though. We don't, actually, Sunbright Crown is another example of a sort of effect like this that we don't really have much of. I really like cards like this that sort of explore new design spaces. But I think this one, while I like the design, it could use maybe a bump in costs down to be a bit more viable.
Acoustic, what do you think?
Sauce. This is weird. I don't know. Because like, yeah, this is a kind of disruption tool, but since but just due to its nature as being this kind of random thing, you don't really get to, it's not really good at like dismantling game plans for the most part, because unless you're playing it's because Acro tends to run on long cards sometimes unless they have a bunch of draws. It's like it's good against them most of the time, but it's like against slower decks you're gonna have a bunch of cards, so it's like even if you banish their one card, they're probably going to have other things that they want to play, or just doesn't hit the thing they want to play, and it's like a 4-mana do nothing, and it's just kind of weird because like, hey, and it's not even like you had the tools from last rotation to like actually just nuke your opponent's hand. You didn't have your Lost Lurker or even like your Eidolon or something to just straight get cards out of the opponent's hand. Mind has some stuff that does that, but like I don't think the Fortuno Craw hand nuke deck is going to want to pay 5 mana for this when they can pay 5 mana for Fortuno. And the theoretical situation where someone is playing the Zooreal deck, if someone is playing the Zooreal deck, they are going to be filling their, if the Zooreal deck happens when they are playing the Zooreal deck, they will have cards that they want to get rid of their hand. So you pay 4 mana to accelerate the game plan of the Zooreal deck.
Grief, I think this is a drinking game. Every time he says the Zooreal deck, oh.
I was more impressed by him putting out the glasses for that. That was all.
So yeah.
Pain.
Okie dokie then. The Rave Jigger Damante is a 3-drop neutral 5/10 human bard from Concierta. With summon, play a copy of each unique song in your hand and graveyard, and when you play a song, this permanently gains a random keyword wherever this is. So yeah, this reminds me of stuff we've seen before, or sort of the this gives me flashbacks to like everything bagel or everything bread and Jill of all trades. But now we're doing like songs and like Damante, but different Damante, and overall I think it's pretty interesting. I don't really know where it sits as the top end. I'm almost to the point where I'm going to pick up the song deck, guys. Just not quite there yet. Give me time. Acoustic, what do you think of this?
This is a neat top end for songs because at the moment all of their cards are like between 1 and 5. They're very low to the ground deck. The existence of Damante adds a new kind of wrinkle, almost sort of acting as a sort of archetypal Ush. Or essentially you are spending the entire game basically playing a bunch of songs, getting them into your hand, getting them into your graveyard, copying them with stuff like Crescenda, and the new 1-drop that just got in that gets you more songs, if I remember correctly, the One Chick Jabroni. That lets you get more songs. We're trying to get more songs. There's some more. There are a lot of ways to get more songs. You have a Vinyl Collector at 5, which is it's even more songs. And then and Damante basically ties everything together, and is basically it's 9 mana. Does a bunch of keywords. It's going to play a bunch of effects, and probably win the game.
Hopefully.
The question is it too slow for the Bard deck? It might be.
Grief, what do you think of this?
To be honest, for this kind of effect, you want to build a pseudo Voltron OTK kind of deck where, sure, you will want to have utility songs, but most of the songs, when you actually play the Damante in the deck, want to be buff effects. Issue is this card can get untargetable.
Yeah.
Meaning is that when you actually pull out all the stops to get Damante buffed to be a pseudo OTK unit, because you want to play as many unique buff effect songs as possible on it, because it will probably have agile, it will probably have unblockable, it will probably have flying or something like that, and very probably also stuff like untargetable. But when it hits untargetable, you cannot buff it. So all in all, yeah, sure, you're basically having a pseudo Osh effect for a very specific action type, which is very cool, and I love it for it. But you will never use the Damante to be the powerhouse attack unit that probably people may think it can be for this kind of effect, since it can get untargetable. Sure. This is a cute little unit that you want to get rid of, but at the end of the day, this is a beat stick. It's a top-end beat stick that will kill your opponent over maybe 2 or 3 turns.
Nope.
But that's it.
Yeah, and apparently I was wrong. The new one for the just gotten just discount songs. Oops.
Yeah. So bards have, like, I think you guys are underestimating this, because bards have absolutely insane mana cheat.
Yeah, I remember, like, as I was saying, I was like, oh right, Endless is a card, so maybe you just play
Yeah.
this on, like, turn
I'm
five.
not basically, the thing is, like, I'm not really underestimating it, but the impact that it can have
MT, what do you
is a
think?
little low.
Yeah, that's my only problem with this. If that's actually, like, came out on, like, I don't know, maybe even turn 7, like, that would be fine. The problem is you can play this on, like, turn 5 with DJ Endless. And, like, it self-synergizes, and it can, like, it loads up your graveyard with a ton more songs, so you can, like, loop these really easily if you draw into more of them. And of course, bards have a song that draw too. Like, you can combo off with this on turn 5 or 6. Like, this could be really nuts.
Well, so the play effect is not going to be triggered by the summon, because force play doesn't trigger those sort of things. And then
you don't need that though.
And it only
like,
plays each unique song.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, you draw what, like maybe 3 cards off the bird song, and then get, like, a massive discount because you just loaded up your graveyard off the Endless song.
Yeah, this is
And then if you have Popstar out, like, you duel something with that, and then, like, all your songs just reset to 0 again. Like, this deck can pop off really easily.
The thing is though, these are many moving parts that have to be put in place first, which is the problem with
It's
it.
true.
Oh, yeah, it's a combo.
I mean, the thing is, if you don't draw a DJ Endless, you're basically completely screwed, because you're never going to play this without it.
Yeah. So we'll see. It looks like a cute little combo deck. Yay, me cards in submitted. Spoiled for Choice is a 1-drop mind action from Verstalt with transform a card in your opponent's hand into a copy of a different card in their hand. So actually I designed this card. Empty put himself first because Empty is greedy.
I'm sorry, I just didn't think about it. I'm like, oh, E comes before S in the alphabet. I will put myself first.
Yeah, no, he did the art, and I really, really do like the art. And he also helped with, like, I think he also did, like, the blocking and stuff.
Like, the only contribution I made on the design part of this card is I shortened the wording so it could fit on a comment.
Yeah. So anyways, what this so the idea with this was Verstalt. MT actually told me about Verstalt before he actually, like, did the public release and stuff like that. I was kicking around ideas for it, and I had the idea of oh yeah, what if we just, like, change the cards in their hands and like do a different kind of hand disruption than we've done before. And so that's when I came up with this little gem. Obviously, the most straightforward application is just to either turn their bomb into a cheap a coin or turn their card they're about to play into a late game drop, and so they have 2 13 drops that just sit there and do nothing in their hand. But of course, you could synergize with this. Unfortunately, we designed this a long time ago, but then Inner Space came out. So if you can get garbage into their hand, you can just turn this into garbage. It's got a lot of little flexible uses, and it just does mind games in sort of a different way than I think we've seen on a couple other cards. I really, really like it. Of course, I designed it. Grief, what do you think of this?
This is either one of the strongest forms of hand disruption that we've seen so far, or one of the weakest ones, depending on what you're facing. Because you will either ruin their entire hand by just giving them a copy of another useless card that they don't need in that specific moment or in the upcoming turns, or the choices that you're basically facing down is 50 shades of okay, it doesn't matter. Cool. Being a 1-cost card for that, sure, helps a lot, but as I said, it's a 1 mana, basically fuck them over. Depending on the game plan, which is cool and all, but I can probably see that because of that, people don't like that card.
Empty, what do you think of this?
I think it is very strong. However, I mean, I really like this design for the realm. It's a card that plays really well if you have other stuff that gives hand information, so you don't have to commit and essentially waste this if your opponent has a hand that's all relevant stuff. And it has a lot of good synergy with a lot of the other hand sculpting things we've seen, like Inner Space and Trading Addict. You can like give your opponent junk and then just turn that into even more junk. So it's a really neat effect, and I like the design. But yeah, the strength of this may prevent it from getting in.
Acoustic, what do you think?
Kind of similar stuff to what Empty said. I think it is a very cool design. It might be too good.
I mean, we could put this at 2 where Inner Space is at, but
the problem is then it compares really poorly to Inner Space.
Yeah, that's sort of the thing. Like, it might be fine, it might be too good. I really like the idea. Bunch of people probably don't like the idea. I'm biased. I like the Mind Flayer realm.
yeah. So I mean, I guess it just
I
kind of
like the
depends where you're
Squid
sitting on
Men
that.
playing card games.
Yeah, so it's unknown where it's sitting at, but except of course Empty can actually see it, but shh, don't tell me, I don't want to know.
All right.
Now let's talk about a very sparkly and exciting design. Rose Court Coercion is a 2-drop strength curio from Mortstall, Realm of the Dead Things, with both players gain 3 HP, draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards. If a curio was discarded this way, return it to hand. So I was actually interested a while ago in adding a little bit of curio support here and there. So I'm really glad that the Mighty Cornmeal did it first. I also see Risky CB was added to the contribs on this. I don't think I saw when he was a thing. I don't know what he did for it. But anyways, symmetric draw, HP gain, and discard, which synergizes with a lot of stuff, mostly relevant to the standard pool, I think, but I don't really know. So, Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, it's a very strong filter effect. I think if you're like running a deck that needs like one specific card or some sort of weird combo deck, like this is a very good card to have because it filters through your deck really quickly and also like gets you HP to protect you against aggro. You are giving your opponent a bit of card advantage, but like as we've seen before, like with cards like Negotiate, it doesn't really matter when you're cycling through your deck that fast. Yeah, just a good card for those type of decks.
Acoustic, what do you think of this?
This feels like a spirit card. You know what I mean, right? Because like gaining health is spirit, discarding is spirit. I guess like the symmetrical nature of it lends it more strength, but that's besides the point. It gets it some health. It gets you some filtering. It's pretty good for that. You can chuck stuff. I mean, like red reanimator is slowly becoming a thing. So with your big resurrection angels, you can chuck stuff into your graveyard, and if you already have like a lyric on the board that's active, you can just you could basically get the guy for free, and with the curio effect. Other copies of Coercion, and I don't know what other curios are in standard, but with other copies of Coercion, those effectively can lower the amount of cards that you discard, because they will come back. It's definitely good for that. And as well, there's another application for this. You can play the Strength Zooreal Deck. All right, so a lot of Zooreal cards are mined, but theoretically you can play this in the Zooreal deck, or you can be playing the Zooreal deck and your opponent is playing this, and you get benefit off of their card. If he got out for at least 5 seconds, this is pretty good in the Zooreal deck. But if your opponent is playing the Zooreal deck, and that's really bad, you can't play this card because they're just going to get more cards because they're playing the Zooreal deck.
Grief, what do you think of this?
Acoustic. I got recently hit by a car. I don't want to laugh because I'm in pain.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you get well soon.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so shit. This card is just better negotiate and better spilled grail. Like holy hell, and I love every bit of it. This is, if you have curios that matter, then sure, this thing can discard itself. Like, oh cool, I can now get my other curios, I can now get a curios back to my hand. Let's just do that again. Oh yeah, I basically prepared my graveyard. I've drawn into my rest of my combo pieces. Yeah, the extra GHP and the extra card that you got, who cares? I'm now going off, or prepped my deck for the next 2 turns to kill you. This is such a strong and cool card.
It's only sitting at 1 though. Should it? I mean, if we're interested in appeasing the voters, should we bump the cost a bit or what?
Like, yeah, this probably needs to be costed at 3 because, as I said, this is better grail and negotiate together.
Yeah, Cornmeal's been on a bit of a power trip lately, trying to creep the
downside.
game into all hell, it seems like.
I mean, I'm all for it. If at the end of the year we're basically playing a fast and loose game with hyper consistency, I don't care. I've played Vintage.
Like,
yeah. So that's all that we had for you guys today. I'm gonna hope to share. Fun week, cool cards. It was nice having a guest back on. I'll try and be more consistent about that in the future, guys. Thank you very much to Empty and to Grief for joining me today.
Always
a
nice
pleasure
to be here.
And thank you all also for picking me cards, because that was nice. Acoustic, so nice of you to join us again.
yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll be able to do this again.
Yeah. And so like, comment, and subscribe. Remind me why I'm doing this. Take your favorite panelists and just DM them something nice. Just say, just thank you for doing the show. People would appreciate that, you know? You can reach out to us. We're your friends.
Yeah.
Keep on playing collective and keep on voting on cards. Bye.